please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to ring the notification bell. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So, Bryan Kohberger, as you may already know, but if you don't, he's in the air. So he is flying cross country now, and last I checked, he was over South Dakota. I'm thinking he's going to arrive somewhere between 6 and 6:30 Eastern Time. And he's on a little plane like this one, a PC-12, and those planes can seat, 6 to 9 passengers. Here is the Pullman Moscow Regional Airport where he's most likely going to land. And there is the inside of a PC-12. That's probably a real nice one. I don't think they're going to be pulling out a tray table for him. There was a video circulating of the body cam of the police officer that pulled them over in Indiana. It's been all the rave. It really didn't show much of anything. You guys check it out.
Got your license and registration with you. I stopped you, man, when you were driving by me there, you're a little too close to the back of that semi. About one car between you and the back of this trailer. We're about one car with 10 miles an hour, so if you're going 60 or 70 miles an hour, we're about 6 or 7 cars. Oh, you guys did?
Yeah, and you said that. So.
You guys stopped by a trooper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy. Was it like a black SUV?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you thought you guys were following too closely? Okay.
What happened at WSU when my son goes to school shooting?
Today? Well, I'm not going to give you guys another ticket or warning if you just got stopped. Just make sure you give yourself plenty of room, okay? So like I said, it's all about how fast you're going, okay? So if you're going 10 miles an hour, you only need one car. Or if you're going, so the speed limit here is 70. If you're going 70 miles an hour, you need 7 cars. Yeah. That's the easy way to explain that. Yeah. Okay. And it's really, in the B&B manual, it says 2 to 20 seconds. All right. You guys have a safe trip. Where y'all heading?
Thank you so much for the time.
Where y'all heading to? Where at? Yeah. It's a long haul. You guys scared of airplanes? Did you? Okay. All right. Well, hey, please have a safe trip.
Thank you,
Safe.
sir.
That was basically it. The officer joked, "You guys scared of planes?" I couldn't quite hear the response, but that's always a possibility. He seemed to be quite respectful, and that was the end of that. If you watch my channel, you saw the extradition hearing yesterday. Once he gets back into town, he'll be there at the local enforcement center in Moscow, and he will just be waiting his court appearances. I'd love to know what linked him to the crime. We know the car was being surveilled. However, they did get the model year wrong, which the model did change pretty drastically. I think anyway, in terms of what they would see at night with the bumpers and the grills and the fog lamps and signals on the mirror that all became available in 2015 versus 2013. The Elantra was much more basic then. They stepped it up in 2015. Did he watch them at their Greek restaurant? Was he proven to be stalking them at the house? These are things we just don't know. I mean, was there other surveillance video other than the initial camera that caught that car? Well, sadly, I don't know that we're going to find out for quite a while. A gag order was put into place, and it basically says it's hereby ordered that the parties to the above titled action, including investigators, law enforcement personnel, attorneys, and agents of the prosecuting attorney or defense attorney, are prohibited from making extrajudicial statements, written or oral, concerning this case, other than a quotation from a reference to, without comment, the public records of the case. And public records are going to be sealed, as far as we know. So there is a gag order in place. You can see this online, and it was signed off yesterday.
Second-degree murder charges in the killing of Trayvon Martin, and he knows what it's like to defend someone under the national spotlight and to have a client who becomes fodder for the headlines and hated before they even step into the courtroom. Mark, always good to talk to you. So you're the first person I thought of. I mean, this guy is universally despised before he's even mentioned the word presumption of innocence. How do you start this defense?
Well, you will never undo that. Everyone already thinks he's guilty, but all you can really do is try and have the people who are making the decisions, from prosecutors to judges to the potential jury pool, realize that they have to wait, that all of the information that's coming out is wholly incomplete. We really don't know very much yet. And if we make these rush decisions, it's just that like confirmation bias. We look at everything else through what we've already decided. So the best thing that any good defense attorney can do, including Ms. Taylor, is just take her time. I wouldn't even defend it actively. He's not guilty, anything like that. Just believe in the process. Have people wait on making their judgment, because she is playing to nobody else but her potential jury pool. And that's what is most significant in a case like this.
I have so many other questions. I'll start with this one. We got a press release late tonight from the Moscow Police Department saying they're not going to talk to us anymore, and they're not the only ones. There's a gag order in this case. I'm not sure if it was the state or the defense that asked for the gag order, but nobody's allowed to talk. Not prosecutors, not defense attorneys, not investigators. Are you surprised?
I'm not, because we are now living in a day and age where there is so much of a flow of information, most of it inaccurate, if not completely wrong, that judges now realize that they have to take control of these type of cases and limit the type of negative publicity, again, that's going to impact on the potential jury pool. So I would not be surprised if this was by the judge herself, and certainly not if it was on behalf of the prosecution, who knows that they have to maintain the sanctity of their investigation and eventual prosecution in order to sustain the conviction if they get one.
Can't even imagine a judge doing this before it's even in her jurisdiction, but that's pretty fascinating. Okay, so I got 30 seconds left, but tell me this. When does he start getting discovery? When does he start seeing the case that they have against him? 20
or 30 days from now, it'll start flowing, very little drips and drops to begin with, but much like Florida, they have an obligation to disclose everything that they have, good, bad, and indifferent. So the defense will be prepared, but it's going to happen over the next 6 or 8 or 10 months, if not longer, because there's a lot to do and a lot the prosecution is going to do, because they know that they are under a microscope as much as the defense.
The defense attorney who will be representing Bryan Kohberger is attorney Ann Taylor. She has 25 years experience practicing law, from what I could tell, and she's out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She is not a paid attorney. She's not private. She is a public defender. On social media yesterday, people were asking questions about Bryan's parents, who are seen here in a few pictures. They tried to hide their faces, and I think that people need to remember that they are victims too. Whatever's going on, we don't know the evidence in this case. These are parents. They were not there. They did not commit a murder. They're just like us, wanting to know what evidence is there, what's going on, and they're hurting. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys are parents, but you raise your children, you hope for the best, you do your best, and I'm sure they thought he was a really good son, doing well in school, and he sounds pretty respectful anytime we've heard about him talking or interacting. These people are hurting, and I think that people being mean to them and questioning them and writing mean things online is just stupid. I mean, I don't know why anyone would do that. It's hurtful, and it does no one any good. It doesn't do any good for the victims in the case, and it certainly doesn't do yourself any good. So please refrain from that. Justice is being sought in this case, so there's no reason for anyone to do that to those people who are also innocent, okay? Going forward, information is going to be pretty hard to get from now on with the feel of how everything's going. We did learn yesterday that investigators did go back into that house from the defense side. The New York Post had an article stating that the Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's defense team hires crime scene reconstruction expert. Accused killer Bryan Kohberger's defense team has hired a veteran Washington State crime scene reconstruction expert. Forensic expert Matthew Nodal, owner and operator of Nodal Scientific, and his team spent 5 hours inside the home on 1122 King Street, Moscow, where the 4 University of Idaho students were brutally stabbed on November the 13th. All this happened while Bryan was in court yesterday. So they are definitely getting a move on. Here is the website, and it looks like, yes, he has 29 years experience, and you can see Matthew Nodal coming out of the house. That's his camera equipment. And then looks like he was surprised getting his picture taken there. He's out of Poly, Washington, if that's how you say it. I'm not good at some of those names, so I apologize in advance if I butchered it. So far, this public defender, and Taylor is very much on her job. He hasn't even touched down, and they've already started their work. As of 6:20 Eastern Time, it still appears that that plane is in the air, if that's even the correct one. Due to security issues, they never confirm when an inmate's in transport. I wanted to share an interesting interview I found on News Nation the other day, because so many people are asking if he's vegan, how could he do a murder? And this expert had some interesting opinions.
Doctor, forensic psychiatrist, and author, extensive experience in providing expert witness testimony for murder trials. Dr. Lieberman, thanks so much for being on the show again.
Thank you. Good to be back.
And Doctor, you've been tracking what we are hearing from Kohberger's attorney, that on the one hand, Kohberger apparently looking forward to being exonerated, to proving his innocence. Are you tracking any potential movement towards not guilty by reason of insanity or the equivalent in Idaho? And how do those things pair up?
Well, yes, it does seem to be very contradictory, because on the one hand, there's some bravado in that. I'm not going to fight extradition because I want to get back and prove to everybody I'm not guilty. But on the other hand, and perhaps it's more the attorney who's suggesting this, that because the attorney, his public defender, said that he wants him to be psychologically tested to see, presumably it's to see whether he's competent to stand trial or not. That would be the first foray, the first way to try to protect your client, to see if you could get a psychiatrist to say that he's not fit to stand trial. And then if that doesn't work, then you would try to go for something like not guilty by reason of insanity.
Given that Bryan Kohberger studied criminology and the mind of a criminal so extensively, in undergrad, that master's, working towards a PhD, are you puzzled by why this crime would be so messy, so bloody, and so prone to leaving DNA behind? Why would someone who knows so much about this commit a crime in this way?
Well, it's so interesting. First of all, the more you find out about him, I mean, it's just he's really fascinating, and the trial hasn't even started. But I think that his fascination with psychology first, in undergrad, and then criminology, and as a master's and a PhD student, and all of that. I think that a lot of that was to try to understand himself, as well as to try to commit the perfect crime. I think he's been struggling with some of these violent impulses that he has. For example, we know that he has this obsessive compulsive attitude towards food, that he's not just vegan, but he doesn't want to have anything that has been in a pot or on a plate that has touched meat. And that tells me that he might be scared that he could actually engage in cannibalism after killing somebody. So, I think that the reason why it was still so bloody, with all his knowledge, was because his rage. And again, that I think that, and I still think, the more we find out that he's an incel, and that this was incel rage against women, because of his history. With women, starting in high school, well, at least starting in high school, where the girls would be bullying him and throwing things at him.
As we are watching items be removed from his apartment, given what we know about the crime and the nature of the crime, would the Idaho killer, the person behind this, be the type to keep trophies from the victims?
Mm-hmm. He might, yes. But what the most fascinating thing that we learned recently is that we know now through cell phones that he was stalking them, that he was stalking the four of them, particularly Kaylee, and she had told her father that she had a stalker. There was also a man who runs a store who was told either by Kaylee herself or by one of the other four students, and so we see that this is true. There's really just so much to unravel. But the thing that concerns me most, in terms of, and I know, he's allegedly this horrible person, but I think. I don't think that they should have taken him off suicide watch. I've read some reports that they've taken him off suicide watch, and I think that is still a possibility, that, even with all this bravado, that really, if he starts to think that things are looking bad for him, I think suicide is a very likely option.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I want to say also, there have been so many reports about cell phone pings and stalking and DNA and all these things. The law enforcement has not confirmed any of these things. The media has reported them, that they've gotten the information through sources. I don't know what that means, sources, but it hasn't been on paper. It's not been put out there. And if in fact things are getting leaked, that may be why we have this gag order in place. We try and discern information the best that we can. Yesterday I did a video about a lady in the correctional facility with Bryan Kohberger, who stated he was showing his genitals to her and other inmates, and that seems to be a lie. In fact, he was quite behaved at the jail, and it was reported that his stay at the time in Monroe County Jail was really uneventful. So none of that was true. Whether she made a mistake or she outright lied, I don't know. Another thing that's going around is that Bryan Kohberger's wrist is cut. You can see his arm here in the photo. Those are shadows from the sun. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of bad information going around, and a lot of mean things being said. Very derogatory statements about appearances, people being mean to one another. Information is underway. Things are, in the lab. They're working on this. And for everyone to be fighting over things we don't even know if any of them are true is kind of silly. I've seen a lot of mean things being said on social media to one another. I just want to remind people, we have a new year. It's 2023. Let's remember to be kind. This isn't personal. We're discussing a case, and there's no reason for anyone to be mean. I'm starting to feel like his neighbor accounts are more genuine than some of his past friendships, as we don't know what was really going on, and if he had been bullied and had very few friends, and they had a falling out. We don't know how skewed an opinion can be at this point. I just don't like people being mean to one another. It's not necessary. If you disagree with somebody, that's completely fine. You can discuss it in a manner that's, amicable. You don't need to be nasty. We all have a common goal here, and that's to find the truth, right? So we're going to get to the bottom of it as it gets released, if it gets released, and we're going to cover it here, and we can discuss it like adults. I tend to answer my comments. I really appreciate everyone giving their input. It's been great. And if anyone has any information who's watching about anyone in this case that can help provide police with further information, or if anyone has knowledge or has seen anything odd in the area of where Buddy lived on Orchard Lane, I believe, in Moscow, please contact the police. The phone number is 208-883-7180. And I thank everyone for watching, and I thank you all who subscribed.